warned you not to marry my son, but you stubbornly married him. Now you will die!
This thing called marriage, sometimes, joy does not arrive with loud celebration. Sometimes, it comes quietly, carrying questions in one hand and hope in the other. After Esther finally accepted Frank, his heart overflowed with happiness. For the first time in his life, love felt certain. It felt chosen. He could hardly contain himself. That same day, he told Esther gently but firmly to inform her people, because once a date was fixed, he and his people would come to pay her bride price without delay. To him, this was not a game or a passing desire. This was a decision of the heart. That evening, Frank returned home glowing. The next day, filled with purpose, he went to meet his uncle, the man whose voice carried weight in family matters. Sitting before him respectfully, Frank explained everything, how he met Esther, how he loved her, and how he intended to marry her. When Frank finished speaking, his uncle remained silent for a while. Then he asked just one question. "Is your mother aware of this decision?" "Yes," Frank replied confidently. "She is aware." "And what is her opinion?" the uncle pressed. "Did she approve?" "Because I know your mother very well. She is not an easy woman. When she disagrees with something, she can be a handful." Frank smiled calmly. "Uncle, do not worry about my mother. I know how to handle her. Once she realizes that my heart is made up, she will adjust. She may resist at first, but she will come around." The uncle studied him closely, then nodded. Seeing Frank's determination, he finally agreed to accompany him to Esther's family house. Frank left that afternoon with his heart light and hopeful, already imagining the future he believed was within reach. Back at Esther's hut, she had already set out for her parents' house. As she walked along the dusty path leading to her father's compound, her thoughts raced ahead of her footsteps. "I don't even know what they will say," she murmured to herself. "After my husband's death, after everything with David, what opinion could they possibly have of me now?" She sighed deeply. But then again, did they ever truly care? She continued bitterly. "If they did, they would not have given me out in marriage at such an early age to my first husband. I have faced life's battles alone for years, without their help or protection. So whether they agree or not, does it even matter?" With that thought, she stepped into her father's compound. Her parents were seated outside, enjoying the afternoon breeze. Her father looked up in surprise. "Esther, you came today," he said. "I am surprised. You stopped visiting us years ago. Even when we came to see you, you refused to let us in. But I am glad to see you, my child. I hope you are well." "Yes, Papa," Esther replied politely. "I am fine. How is Mama?" "We are all right," her father said warmly. "So, what do we owe this visit?" he added jokingly. Esther took a deep breath. "Papa, I came to inform you that I have found a husband. He and his people will be coming to see you by the weekend." The air changed instantly. Her parents exchanged looks of disbelief. Her mother spoke first, frustration evident in her voice. "Tell me you are joking," she said. "Don't you think it's too early for you to be thinking of marriage again? This will be your third marriage in barely 5 years. Who is this man? And which family is he from?" her father added. "Well, his name is Frank," Esther began. Before she could finish, her mother cut in sharply. "Frank? I hope it is not the Frank I know, the son of Sandoma, the merchant who died some years ago. Because his only son is named Frank too." "Yes," Esther replied softly. "It is him. The same Frank. Thank God you know him already." Her mother gasped. "Huh? My child, this is not about thanking God. The question is, why would Frank want to marry you of all people? He is one of the most eligible bachelors in this village. He has refused every woman brought to him all these years. Why you? And his mother, she is a very strict and troublesome woman. How do you intend to handle that? Esther lifted her chin calmly. Mama, I am getting married to Frank, not his mother. If she is troublesome, that is her burden, not mine. She paused, then added quietly, all I need is your blessing. And yours too, Papa. That is all. Her parents fell silent. They looked at her sadly, as though watching a child walking toward a fate they could not stop. But her mind was already made up, and they knew it. After the discussion, Esther did not linger. She left quickly, returning to her hut. She did not want Frank to come looking for her and find her absent. As she walked back alone, her thoughts grew heavier. Should I really say no to a man who truly loves me, she wondered, simply because his mother does not approve? Is marriage about family acceptance, or about two people choosing each other? The questions followed her all the way home. As Esther reached her hut, she stood for a moment before going inside, caught between fear and hope, between the weight of the past and the promise of something new. And somewhere in that quiet pause, the future waited.
You witch! You don't want to leave my son alone for me!
Mama, I will not leave your son. Do your worst.
This thing called marriage, a new question, a new weight on her chest, one she had learned not to ignore. After leaving her parents' house that day, Esther walked back to her hut quietly, her thoughts tangled like dry weeds after harvest. At the same time, far away from her, Frank had also taken his leave from his uncle's house. Both of them were walking toward the same hope, each believing love had finally smiled on them. That very evening, Frank arrived at Esther's hut. They sat together, talking long into the night about marriage rites, traditions, and the steps that lay ahead. For the first time in a long while, Esther laughed freely. Frank's excitement was contagious, his eyes bright with dreams of a future he had waited years to claim. The following day, just as tradition demanded, Frank and his uncle went to Esther's father's compound carrying a keg of palm wine. The elders were called. Words were exchanged. Blessings were spoken. Laughter filled the compound. The bride price was paid successfully. Frank's joy knew no bounds. He walked beside Esther as they returned to her hut that afternoon, his steps light, his heart full. To him, life had finally begun. But happiness, like the Harmattan breeze, is sometimes short-lived. As they stood outside the hut that evening, Frank suddenly cleared his throat, his voice gentle but firm. Esther, my dear wife, he began, smiling, now that we are legally married and blessed as husband and wife, don't you think it is high time you move in with me and begin to live with me? Esther looked up at him. You know it is only right for a woman to move into her husband's house, Frank continued calmly. The words landed heavily in Esther's chest. She froze, not because she didn't expect the question, but because it stirred memories she had tried so hard to bury. David. The lies. The betrayal. The loss. She hesitated, then spoke carefully. But if I move in with you now, she said slowly, what happens to all the land and houses I inherited from my late husband? Her voice carried worry she could not hide. Frank chuckled softly. You can sell them, he replied casually. You wouldn't be needing them anymore now that we are married. All my properties are also yours. Or, do you intend to leave me and return to your house someday? No, not at all, Esther answered quickly. That's not what I mean. She paused, choosing her words wisely. I just need a few days to think about it. Please understand. I will get back to you. Frank studied her face for a moment, then smiled again. All right, my love. Take your time. He kissed her forehead lightly and hurried back home, his heart still dancing with hope. But Esther stood there long after he left. Her joy slowly gave way to thought. Maybe Frank is different, she told herself. Maybe he truly loves me and is not after what I own. Maybe that is why he wants me to move in with him. Yet fear whispered louder. What if I am wrong again? Restless, Esther wasted no time. She wrapped her scarf and headed straight for Maggie's house. When she arrived, she poured everything out, Frank's request, her fears, the memories that refused to stay buried. Maggie listened quietly, her face serious. Esther, she finally said, he may be a good man, yes. But it is too dangerous for you to put all your eggs in one basket. Especially after everything you have been through at such a young age. You must learn to be smart. Vigilant. Then she asked softly, what do you really want for yourself, aside from my advice? Esther sighed. I don't want to sell my house or my lands, she confessed. I can't sell everything I own. What if something goes wrong with Frank? Then I will have nothing to fall back on. She shook her head. But I also don't know what to say to him without giving the wrong impression. Maggie's eyes narrowed thoughtfully. Worry less, she said at last. I know what to do. She leaned forward. Esther, do you still have money saved from your late husband? Yes, Esther replied. More than enough. Does Frank know about it? No, Esther said quickly. We've never talked about money or assets. Good, Maggie nodded. On no account should your new husband know how much you truly have. Esther's eyes widened. What you will do, Maggie continued, is calculate the worth of your hut, your lands, and your livestock. Then withdraw the same amount of money from your safe and show it to Frank. Tell him it is the money from selling everything. Esther gasped. But Auntie Maggie, what if he asks who bought them? Maggie smiled knowingly. Tell him you don't know. Say I was the one who brought the buyers. Leave the rest to me. If he comes to ask, I know exactly what to tell him. Relief washed over Esther's face. Thank you, Auntie Maggie, she said, holding her hands. God bless you for always being there for me. Without wasting another moment, Esther hurried back to her hut through the village path, her heart racing, not with fear alone this time, but with resolve. For the first time, she was choosing caution over blind trust. An unknown marriage sometimes begins with songs and laughter, and sometimes it begins with silence, fear, and unanswered prayers.
Coming to help you.
For
You will
Esther,
suffer.
this new chapter did not arrive gently. It came with hope in one hand, and uncertainty tightly gripping the other. Still, she chose to believe. Because after everything she had endured, she wanted, just once, to believe that love could finally be kind. Soon after leaving Auntie Maggie's house that evening, Esther returned to her hut with a heavy heart but a determined mind. She did exactly as Maggie had advised. From her wooden savings box hidden beneath the floor mat, she brought out a large sum of money she had carefully kept from her late husband's wealth. When Frank arrived later that day, smiling as usual, Esther sat him down. My dear husband, she began softly, I have already sold all my properties, the house, the lands, and the livestock. I am now fully ready to move in with you. She opened the bag and showed him the money. Maybe when we are fully settled after the marriage, we can sit together and decide what to do with the money realized from the sale, she added. Frank's face lit up with satisfaction. Oh, you have done well, he said happily. Thank you for putting this into consideration. Then, without hesitation, he asked. So when are you moving in with me? I am moving in today, if you are ready for me, Esther replied calmly. I've already packed my bags and everything I'll be needing. Besides, the new owner of this place may want to start using it soon since they've paid in full. Frank could barely contain his joy. He quickly helped Esther carry her bags, baskets of clothes, and her carefully wrapped bits. Side by side, they walked down the familiar village path, Esther leaving behind the only home she had known since her late husband's death, stepping into what she hoped would be a new beginning. But destiny was already waiting. As soon as they stepped into Frank's compound, his mother stood outside, arms crossed, eyes blazing, fully prepared for war. So this is how your evil plans have finally succeeded, she shouted the moment she saw Esther. You think you can bewitch my son and sneak your way into his life and still have peace? She moved closer, pointing accusing fingers. If you didn't charm my son, tell me, what exactly is in you that would make him marry you, eh? Answer me. Frank quickly turned to Esther. Please ignore her, my dear. My mother is always like this. She will get used to you being my wife. She will stop causing trouble. Esther nodded calmly, forcing strength she no longer felt. As they were about to enter the house, everything happened at once. Frank's mother suddenly grabbed Esther by the hair, yanking her backward, clutching her clothes tightly as she screamed. You must leave my son's life today and go back to wherever you came from. This house will never contain both of us. People began to gather. If you were a good girl, she continued venomously, you wouldn't be marrying your third man at the age of 21. Shame on you. Tears streamed down Esther's face as Frank forcefully intervened, freeing her from his mother's grip and quickly leading her inside the hut with her belongings. Outside, Madam High Tension still shouted angrily. You think it's over? Never. The battle line has just been drawn. You think you can turn my son against me? Your plans will never work. She spat on the ground. I will deal with you, and by the time I'm done, you will know why they call me Madam High Tension. Inside the hut, Esther collapsed onto a wooden stool, sobbing uncontrollably. Frank, she cried. Is this how I'm going to live in this house? Why does your mother hate me so much when I've done her no wrong? Is this the life I'm meant to live just because I chose to love you? Frank held her briefly, guilt written all over his face. I'm sorry, my love. Please forgive me, and forgive my mother for my sake. I promise I will talk to her. With time, she will change. Then, almost immediately, he stood up and walked out, leaving Esther alone as he went straight to confront his mother. Mama, you need to stop this, Frank said firmly. It's unfair to treat my wife this way on the very first day she entered her matrimonial home. You were the one who pressured me all these years to get married. You even brought many women for me. Before he could finish, his mother cut him off sharply. Then why didn't you marry any of the girls I brought for you? She snapped. So because I asked you to find a wife, you went and carried this witch, a widow who has already been married twice, for my only son. God forbid. She spat again. Over my dead body will she live in this house. Tell her to return to where she came from while it's still early. Otherwise, I will not be held responsible for what happens to her. She walked away angrily, leaving Frank standing there, confused, shaken, and speechless. Back inside the hut, Esther sat quietly, tears dropping endlessly as her mind spiraled. What is this thing called marriage? She whispered. When I was forced to marry a man almost old enough to be my grandfather, he treated me right and was ready to give me the world. When he died and I followed the man I believed was meant for me, it ended in unbearable pain. Now that I've finally found a man who truly loves me, his mother despises me. She held her chest in pain. What exactly am I supposed to do? What is marriage really about? As Esther sat there drowning in thoughts and fear of the future, her mother-in-law sat elsewhere, coldly calculating her next move. Esther did not know it yet. But she had just walked straight into a burning fire.
Somebody help me! Nobody is coming to help you. You will suffer.
Marriages don't break with time. They break on the very first morning. After the outburst that welcomed her into Frank's house, Esther sat quietly through the night, her back against the wall, eyes swollen from crying. She replayed everything over and over again in her head. Why did I marry him when I knew his mother never liked me? Why did I convince myself that love alone would be enough? Tears kept rushing down her eyes, silent but heavy. Later that night, Frank returned to her side. He sat close, pulling her gently into his arms. My love, calm down, he said softly. Please don't cry. I don't ever want to see you cry. Esther sniffed, wiping her face. Everything will be alright, Frank continued. Trust me. I will handle my mother. You are safe with me. Slowly, his words walked. They talked for a while, forced a few laughs, and for the first time since entering the house, Esther felt a small sense of peace. Eventually, exhaustion took over, and she slept off. Early the next morning, Frank woke up quietly. He looked at Esther sleeping beside him, her face still swollen from tears. He spoke to himself in a low voice. Let me not wake her up. She needs all the rest she can get, especially after the drama my mother caused last night. I'll quickly go see my uncle and return before she wakes. He dressed quickly and left the house. What Frank didn't know was that his mother had been awake. As soon as Frank stepped out of the compound, Madame High Tension emerged from her hut, watching him disappear down the path. She hissed. I will show this girl today that I am not the kind of woman to be messed with. She went back inside and came out carrying a bucket filled with water. Steam lightly curled from the surface. She stopped, dipped her hand inside her wrapper, and brought out a black substance tied in nylon. With an evil smile, she tore it open and sprinkled a generous amount into the bucket. Yes, she muttered. This will teach her the kind of trouble she is begging for if she refuses to leave my son's house. Slowly, deliberately, she walked toward Frank's hut. At the door, she paused, then pushed it open. Inside, Esther was still fast asleep. Without hesitation, Madame High Tension lifted the bucket and poured the water all over her. Jesus! Jesus! Esther screamed, jumping up in pain, shock, and panic. My eyes! My eyes! Frank!
Somebody help me!
Somebody
Nobody
help
is
me.
coming to help you.
But
You will
help
suffer.
did not come.
Somebody
Instead,
help me!
she heard a
Nobody
voice
is
she
coming to
dreaded.
help you. You will
Help
suffer.
is coming, her supposed
Somebody
mother-in-law
help me!
said coldly.
Nobody is coming to help
Not
you.
now,
You will
not
suffer.
later. Nobody can save you from me unless you leave my son's house, she continued. You will never have peace here. Esther collapsed to the ground, crying, clutching her face, her eyes burning as if they were on fire. Madame High Tension stood over her, satisfied. This is just the beginning, she said calmly. I only decided to give you a taste of what I can do, cold water mixed with original Cameroon pepper. She laughed softly. You are even lucky it wasn't hot water. Next time, you may not be this lucky. It might be hot water, or something worse. With that, she turned and walked away, humming lightly, leaving Esther writhing in pain. That early morning, Esther sat helplessly on the cold floor, crying uncontrollably, her eyes swollen and burning. God, she sobbed. What have I gotten myself into? Where is Frank? How am I supposed to survive in this house? She shook her head weakly. I am tired of this thing called marriage. The torment is too much. As the sun rose gently over the village, Esther sat broken inside a house that was never meant to feel like home. And unknown to her. This was only the beginning.
No girl can separate my son from me. All in the name of marriage. I will make her suffer until she leaves my son's house.
It hurts
But
so
for
much.
Esther,
The heat is burning
daylight
me.
brought no relief.
Why won't it stop? I can't bear
She
it.
sat on the cold floor of the hut, her wrapper soaked, her eyes burning like fire had been poured into them. Tears rolled freely, mixing with the peppered water that still clung to her face. Her hands trembled as she groped blindly around her, fear gripping her chest tighter than any rope ever could. God, she whispered hoarsely. Is this how my life will end? Her head throbbed. Her heart ached. Her spirit felt crushed. Just then, hurried footsteps echoed into the compound. Esther. Frank's voice rang out in panic. Esther. The moment he stepped into the hut, the sight before him froze his blood. She was on the floor. Shaking. Crying. Blindly reaching for support. Jesus Christ, he shouted, rushing to her side. What happened to you? Who did this to you? Esther tried to speak, but her voice broke into sobs. Frank, my eyes, they are burning, your mother, she. Before she could finish, Frank had already understood. His face darkened. His hands clenched into fists. He lifted Esther gently into his arms and carried her outside, shouting for help. Neighbors began to gather, murmuring, whispering, pointing fingers. What happened? Isn't this the new wife? Why is she crying like this? Frank ignored them all. He rushed her to the stream, pouring clean water over her face again and again, whispering softly, I'm here. I'm here, don't be afraid. After a while, Esther could finally open her eyes slightly. The pain reduced, but the fear remained. She looked up at Frank, her voice barely above a whisper. She said, this is just the beginning. Frank swallowed hard. At that moment, Madame High Tension walked into the compound, arms folded, lips curled into a smug smile. What is all this noise so early in the morning? She asked coldly. A grown woman crying like a child. Frank turned sharply. Mama. Yes, she replied casually. Did you do this? He asked, his voice shaking, not with fear, but with suppressed rage. She laughed. A dry, heartless laugh. I was only teaching her how things work in this house, she said. If she cannot endure small discipline, how will she survive marriage? Frank stared at his mother like he was seeing her for the first time. This is wickedness, he said slowly. Pure wickedness. She scoffed. Choose your words carefully, Frank. Remember who gave birth to you. Silence fell heavily between them. Esther struggled to stand, her knees weak. She looked at Frank, tears filling her eyes again, not from Pepper this time, but from disappointment. Frank, she said softly, this is your house. This is your blood. I cannot fight your mother and win. He rushed to her. Don't say that. I will not let her hurt you again. I promise you. But Esther shook her head. I have heard promises before, she whispered. And I almost died holding on to them. The villagers watched quietly. Madame High Tension smiled. The battle lines had been drawn. And Esther, unknowingly, had just stepped into a war far deeper than marriage itself. To become.
Nobody told me how dangerous it is to marry a man that his family does not like you.
Its slow
Nobody told me
descent,
how dangerous
painting
it
the
is to
sky
marry a
in
man
hues
that
of
his family
orange
does
and
not
gold,
like you.
but the warmth of daylight brought no comfort to Esther's heart. The events of the morning replayed in her mind like a cruel melody she could not silence. The sting of her mother-in-law's cruelty, the burning memories of peppered water on her eyes, and Frank's desperate yet tender care, all mixed into a cocktail of confusion and pain. Later that evening, as the village began its quiet hum, Esther sat inside the room, her eyes heavy with sorrow. She spoke softly, almost to herself at first, then to Frank. Frank, don't you think we should move out of your family house? She asked, her voice trembling slightly. Maybe buy or rent another house a bit far away from your mother. Somewhere we can have peace, somewhere we can live as husband and wife, the way it's supposed to be. Frank paused, leaning against the doorway, rubbing the back of his neck. Slowly, he responded, his voice low, measured. Yes, you're right, he admitted. I know how you feel, and I understand. But, remember, I am the only child of my parents. My mother has been widowed ever since my father passed, and I am her only source of help and encouragement. What will happen to her if I suddenly move out? Besides, I still have my father's lands, houses, and businesses to oversee here. I cannot abandon them all. He stepped closer, taking her hands in his. Please, my love, bear with me. I promise you, I will talk to her. She will change. Let's not move. I love you, please believe in me. Trust me, I will make it work. Esther looked at him, helplessness pulling in her eyes. She knew the truth, sometimes love alone was not enough to shield one from the venom of a bitter heart. Feeling a need to escape the tension, she rose and walked out of Frank's house for the first time since the morning's outburst. The village path stretched before her, lined with small huts and soft patches of grass, and she breathed in deeply, hoping the fresh air might soothe her soul. Maybe a walk will help me think, she murmured, speaking to herself as she wandered slowly along the path. Maybe if I clear my mind, I'll make the right decision. Her footsteps echoed softly as she spoke aloud, confusion and frustration blending in her voice. What exactly is this thing called marriage? She asked the empty path. How can your mother hate you so deeply, without a reason? Didn't she know what it is to support a broken woman? Or does that lesson not apply to mothers-in-law? Is it a crime to marry her son? The questions stumbled over each other as the sky darkened slowly, the village settling into evening stillness. After walking for what felt like an eternity, Esther realized how far she had strayed and decided it was time to return home. She needed to eat, to regain some strength, and perhaps, if she was lucky, find a moment of peace. Back at the hut, Frank had waited for hours, his heart heavy with worry. Seeing no sign of Esther, he muttered to himself, pacing the small space. Maybe she went somewhere important, but she would have told me, at least a word, anything. I don't want to overthink it, he said, finally resigning. Well, let me prepare something for her. She hasn't eaten since morning. She must be starving. He moved to the small kitchen space, carefully bringing out chicken and greens, chopping and stirring with precision. His mind was calm, focused on making Esther comfortable and happy, if only for a moment. Suddenly, Madame High Tension appeared in the doorway, her eyes wide with disbelief. Eche. No, impossible. My only son cannot be turned into a vegetable by that useless girl called Esther, she shouted. Frank turned calmly. I'm cooking, Mama, he said softly. I just want to make some dinner before my wife returns, he added. Before he could finish, she cut him off sharply. Oh. My father's enemies have finally succeeded in turning my son into a fool. Why are you cooking? What happened to your wife's hands? Since when did you start cooking for a woman? I can't believe my eyes. This witch has charmed you. Frank's voice was firm but patient. No, Mama. Nobody charmed me. Besides, it is not a crime for a man to cook for his wife, especially when she is not feeling well. Shut your mouth, Frank, she barked. Why is she not feeling fine? What is wrong with her if not laziness? She's not even pregnant yet. I cooked for your father for 50 years, and he never entered the kitchen. How dare this useless girl start turning you into a slave in your own house? Where is she? Madame High Tension stormed through the hut, searching for Esther, hurling abusive words as she went. Finding the hut empty, she planted herself in front of the house, vowing to confront Esther when she returned. Frank, meanwhile, quietly continued cooking, ignoring her as she lamented and ranted. It was only moments later that Esther stepped into the compound. Her heart was heavy, her body tired, but she tried to regain composure. The moment her feet touched the earth of the compound, Madame High Tension rushed forward, grabbing her clothes in a vice-like grip. You witch! You're finally back, she spat, her eyes blazing. So you've decided to turn my son into a slave in his own house. Lazy girl. You can't even cook for your husband. What kind of wife are you? Esther tried to walk past her, but before she could take a step, the older woman deliberately set her legs in her path. Esther stumbled, falling hard to the ground. Mama! What's your problem? Esther cried out, pain and confusion mingling in her voice. What have I done to you? Why are you bent on making my life miserable? If I were your daughter, would you be happy if another woman treated me like this? Madame High Tension's eyes flared, voice sharp as a dagger. God forbid. You will never be my daughter. I would rather remain with one son the way I am than have a daughter like you. Frank rushed to Esther's side, lifting her gently from the ground. "My love, come this way," he whispered, wrapping his arm around her. "Ignore her. Let's go inside and eat. I made dinner for you. It's your favorite. Please, don't let her spoil our mood." Inside the small hut, Esther and Frank sat together, eating in quiet companionship. Frank spoke softly, making small jokes, trying to lift her spirits. Esther managed a smile, but the shadow of Madame High Tension lingered in her mind. The smile could not last as long as the poisonous presence existed. And as she sat there, thoughts swirling, she wondered once more, is marrying a man with a mother truly a blessing, or is it a curse waiting patiently to reveal itself? A parable drifted through her mind, one her grandmother had once told her. A tree in the forest cannot grow strong if a thorn bush wraps its roots around it. No matter how much sunlight falls, no matter how soft the rain, the tree will bend and struggle. Only when the thorn bush is cleared can it stand tall. And Esther knew her life, her marriage, was like that tree. Only time, courage, and perhaps Frank's strength could clear the thorns and allow her to grow.
That's why you killed your ex-husband. To calmly marry my son, you evil widow. Mama, you're also a widow. Does it mean you also killed your husband?
Morning came with no mercy. The sun had not fully risen when chaos returned to Frank's compound, loud, raw, and unforgiving, just like the days before it. For Esther, exhaustion clung to her bones. The drama of the past weeks had drained her strength, yet she knew one truth too well: peace never visited that house on its own. She sat up slowly, rubbing her tired eyes. "I need to go and sweep the compound early," she told herself. "If I don't, this woman will turn the whole house upside down again today." Quietly, she picked up the broom and stepped outside. The morning air was cool, the compound still calm. Esther began sweeping, moving steadily from one corner to another, determined to finish before trouble found her. But trouble was already watching. Madame High Tension heard the sound of the broom and stepped outside. Without a word, she walked straight to the part of the compound Esther was yet to sweep, dragged a chair there, and sat down heavily, crossing her legs and shaking them deliberately, dust rising around her. Esther noticed but said nothing at first. She swept closer and greeted respectfully. "Good morning, Mama. How was your night?" No response. She greeted again, a little louder. "Mama, good morning." That was when the woman turned sharply. "What do you want to know?" she snapped. "Or were you praying for me not to wake up?" Esther froze. "Get out of my sight and stop saying, 'Good morning,'" Madame High Tension continued bitterly. "What exactly is good about this morning?" Esther swallowed hard. Trying to keep the peace, she spoke calmly. "Mama, please can you move your chair to the other side? I've already finished sweeping there. Let me sweep this side too so I can finish before the sun rises." The woman ignored her completely, acting as though Esther did not exist. After waiting for a while, Esther tried again, still respectful. "Mama, please stand up. Let me help you carry your chair to the other side so I can sweep this part." That was when Madame High Tension exploded. "This girl," she shouted. "Why have you decided not to give me peace this morning? Everybody come and see." "Oh. I'm trying my best to avoid this witch today, but she will not leave me alone." Esther quietly walked away to continue sweeping another corner. That was when the woman shouted after her, "If you want to sweep, sweep and pass. I am not on your way." Esther returned to that spot, bending down to sweep carefully. Suddenly, go! A heavy slap landed hard on her back. "Oh!" Esther screamed, staggering. "Mama! What is this again? I thought you said I should sweep and pass. Why are you doing this to me?" Before she could recover, Madame High Tension grabbed her clothes violently, dragging her forward. "Oh! I know your plans now," she shouted. "You want to blind me with dust so you can take over my son's house and turn him into your slave. You untrained, irresponsible child. Didn't your useless mother train you well? Husband killer. Those words cut deeper than any slap. Esther went silent, then something inside her snapped. Mama, she said, her voice shaking but firm, you are free to insult me. Say whatever you like about me. But let today be the first and last day you will ever involve my parents in your madness. If you try it again, I will not let it slide. Madam High Tension's eyes widened. Oh, she screamed. So you have grown wings now? You want to talk back at me? She grabbed Esther's clothes again. If I call your parents and your pathetic dead husband that you killed, what will you do? Tell me. What can you do? This time, Esther held her wrist and pushed it away. For the first time, she stood her ground. Mama, Esther said boldly, you will not involve my family in your cruelty again. I have kept quiet since I entered this house, but I have had enough. And from today, stop calling me a husband killer. She paused, her voice trembling with pain and anger. You are a widow too, Mama. The air went cold. Did you also kill your husband? Esther asked quietly. Or is it only when it is me that it becomes murder? Are you not a widow, Mama? Answer me. The words hit Madam High Tension like thunder. She screamed and collapsed to the ground, crying uncontrollably. Everybody come and hear, oh, she wailed. Come and see what my son married. A girl accusing me of killing my beloved husband. God of heaven. Her cries echoed through the compound, drawing villagers from every direction. Esther stood frozen, hands shaking. Indeed, she thought painfully, people cannot take what they dish out. As villagers rushed in, murmuring and staring, Esther realized something had changed forever. This was no longer just marriage. This was war, and silence was no longer an option. To be continued.